morning and good afternoon, evening to everyone. Very excited for the Marscoin Expo, and I'd like to kick it off with a couple of slides regarding our history, and maybe a few words actually first with regard to Bitcoin. One of the ideas of the Marscoin project, of course, is heavily influenced by Bitcoin's innovation and what happened in the Bitcoin space, in particular because Bitcoin has developed such a large and huge network effect on planet Earth. It's the major blockchain, the first one to prove this concept, initially developed by Satoshi Nakamoto, and so far it seems like no other coin has been able to take its place. And we'll talk a little bit more about network effects and being first to market in this particular case. Bitcoin makes a very strong case for it. And the interesting thing about Bitcoin is it is developing itself into some form of reserve currency, at least for the internet, maybe even more. So I just have a few stats here. We have now 11 years of Bitcoin running 24/7. So no weekend interruptions, no stock market stops or changes by any particular governmental body. So 11 years running 24/7, about 400,000 daily transactions at this point, $6 billion in volume transacted. And as of a few weeks ago, legal tender in one country on this beautiful planet. So it's a very innovative ecosystem that developed around Bitcoin, and it keeps setting new records. And if you look at the history of Bitcoin, of course, I just have this little kind of tongue-in-cheek summary of its history. There's a lot of criticism for a project that started out as an alternative for transferring monetary value between two parties without an actual counterparty necessary. But there seems to be something going on the lines of Gresham's law, where a superior hard sound money seems to be pulling in interest and value from other networks, from other monetary networks. So Bitcoin is still keeps growing, and as everyone knows, we hit $60,000 recently, back down to 30. But these fluctuations, they are no news. And as Michael Saylor likes to point out, we have like 150% appreciation on average every year. The interesting thing about Bitcoin too is that there is something fascinating about capturing the socioeconomic energy of a population and being able to transfer that value down the time. There's very famous books written like the Bitcoin Standard at this point that go into more detail about the economic impacts. And in our Marscoin paper, we talk about not just from a technology perspective about Bitcoin and a potential network on Mars based on a cryptocurrency, but we also talk a little bit about the implications for civilization and economics, and contrast that to the current fiat regime that the planet is still majorly operating under. So, coming to Marscoin, given this little side tour on Bitcoin's background, what are the reasons for Marscoin's, the raison d'être, the reasons for its being? So I'll go into the history in a second, but I thought I'll throw this out first. One, of course, is a similar attempt as what Bitcoin is trying to do, the idea of a planetary reserve currency. Now, as most of you know, the Mars is quite far away from Earth. The ability to send, let's say, a Bitcoin, have a data connection between the Moon and Earth is not so much of a problem. The two bodies are close by, and we do have a penalty of light speed when we operate in space. So from a Martian perspective, any communication with Mars is anywhere up to 40 minutes away from Earth, two-way communications. And while it fluctuates throughout the year, it is still pretty far for any TCP/IP or any communication. So what we'll probably end up with on Mars is we'll have obviously a form of internet there for our first settlements, but the data will come in chunks and will be updated delayed by every hour or so. But when it comes to transactions that happen or that need to happen on a minute or second basis, then Bitcoin is too far away. If someone on Mars wants to buy a cup of coffee and will not just wait maybe for a confirmation of 10 minutes, but needs to wait 10 confirmations to make sure the transaction took place, it really doesn't work. Of course, there could be some form of second layer network, like a Lightning network on Mars, but still we then end up with certain entities that sink the funds back to Earth. And there's a certain dependency for any Bitcoin related network on Mars that will probably make it more conducive or force the Martian settlers to come up with their own network. And why not? It's easy enough. And so as a second point, the idea that a blockchain is a beautiful example, and Bitcoin here as a currency is the first, often explained as the first example, the currency feature utilizing a blockchain, but there's more. A blockchain itself allows a timestamping and an immutable ledger. Data can be entered that cannot be revoked by a party or altered by a party later on. Everybody can see what's going on. And so there's other aspects of blockchains that are crucially important for building an infrastructure in finance and in governance. So aspects like voting, for instance, aspects of identity verification, and this leads, of course, to anything related to a settlement, who owns what, who decides how things should be governed and operated, what's the transparency involved in it. So blockchains allow us to experiment with these ideas. Data, for instance, can be tied to a blockchain and made immutable. For instance, any resource generation on the chemical plants, on the power plants on Mars, anything that's imported could be tracked and made sure that we know what's there and how much is there, when was it generated, and where is it located at. And then, of course, there is also this, as I alluded to in the book, the Bitcoin standard is highly recommended from a reading perspective. There is going to be something like a Martian standard where as money is a form of social glue, it connects everyone. So in a barter society, which might initially, if we're talking about a couple of individuals who are in a small setting, then that might work. But as soon as we reach 150, 200 people, it becomes a little bit harder. And the beautiful thing about the innovation and invention of money is it allowed humans to operate together, work together, define goals together, store their work, if you will, for longer periods of time and as capital, and utilize this capital later, pool it together, build things that they individually would not be able to. Or when it comes to price signal, for instance, show in a society which aspects of the society are more expensive. There's obviously some form of innovation that's necessary or needed. There's some bottleneck that needs to be resolved, and so it triggers and challenges all the beautiful human creative capabilities. And a Marscoin standard, if you will, would allow and help the Martians, independently of Earth, to develop and see what is necessary and in which direction they would want to take their society, their civilization. So that's just some basic thoughts that inspired what happened in 2013 when we, myself and a couple of friends internationally, started talking about the idea of a Mars coin. And I just have the Mars coin history here on the screen. The thoughts and the philosophy occurred 2013, as some of you may remember from those ancient cryptocurrency days. A lot of coins spawned after Litecoin kind of trailed or innovated after Bitcoin, and the thought arose: is there room for let's say, a meme coin? Is there something like a network effect? Will Bitcoin replace all other currencies, or is there room for other currencies, the room for niche currencies? And I know this discussion is still going on. Our position was one that, however this may play out, one thing is for certain: every planet, just from the physical constraints, will need its own chain, and just as I just explained in the previous slide. So Marscoin was created to take this space, take this idea, put some serious thought behind it, and make it a platform for not just futuristic exploration of topics, but in fact, in those days, if you remember 2013, also try to think of ways of funding a settlement that is extremely expensive to pull off, but not impossible. And how might that work? If you remember, and we had at that time Mars One. It was one big project started by Bas Lansdorp in the Netherlands, and that was at the time when SpaceX was already underway, but the Starship was still far in the future. And the Mars Society, of course, has been one of the large influential societies from where also Elon Musk got his inspiration to start SpaceX. And so we were thinking that perhaps a cryptocurrency focused on Marscoin with donation addresses for these institutions could help us get to Mars faster, in a similar vein as North America was settled by English settlers who pooled their resources together and packed their belongings together, bought ships, and then headed over to the New World as a community effort. But from 2014, the Marscoin Genesis block was generated actually on the 1st. We were timing this to start out the year with the launch of Marscoin. So on the 1st of January 2014, the Genesis block was mined, and the network launched, and it's been running ever since. We did presentations in New York at the Marscoin, at the Mars Society's conference, and we started building infrastructure and haven't really stopped with that either. And I'll go into some of the infrastructure that exists for Marscoin. And just 2019, we released our latest update and large update client, 1.5 desktop client. And in 2021, of course, a couple of more things happened, and I'll go into detail here what we're experienced this year. So this is where we are at. We're looking at the 7th year of Marscoin in existence. We have multiple trading pairs on top 20 exchanges. We have Marscoin available at over 700 ATMs across North America. We have an extremely active community on Discord and Twitter. We have mobile-friendly online wallets, and especially this year, a couple of major projects being in the works. So a little bit into the details. This year was particular because, as you remember, the discussion spawns in earlier this year with between Elon Musk and CZ from Binance regarding Mars and Marscoin, and as SpaceX continues to develop the rockets, as the Martian exploration and potential settlement of Mars becomes moves more into the global conscience. Obviously, Marscoin is something that more people talk about, discover, and try to find inspiring, particularly reading the white paper and all the experiments and project goals that we have set for ourselves. The website relaunched this year. We tried to bring it up to incorporate the latest information. So when you visit our website, this is something that was worked on earlier this year. The white paper got a really nice place, and is something that's been worked on for a long time, but has its kind of final version now. And you can find all the information that you're looking for on our website, in particular the links to our various community sites. Discord, for various reasons, is definitely the most active of all our community pages. The explorers, we have several blockchain explorers. So it's obviously interesting to see how the network operates and see transactions as they occur. And from the past, just have here a quick screenshot. There's several blockchain explorers. We have fallback explorers in case something happens to the major ones. So you can see Explorer 1, 2, and so on. There's several others too. There's links to all of this. One of the interesting things with a smaller blockchain like Marscoin is that the network has at this point the largest hash rate that it ever had, around 50 gigahash, and it's a script mining algorithm similar to Litecoin and Dogecoin. But reorgs of the chain do happen, and so we had to make sure that these block explorers are capable of handling any reorgs that occur. So that's something that that was just finished, and they can handle that much better. We also have droplets available for anybody who wants to run Marscoin nodes and Marscoin explorers. For instance, just let us know. You can just, if you're on DigitalOcean or other server farms, you can just spin those up relatively quickly. And one of the highlights in the Marscoin community, of course, is our online wallet. This is probably one of the oldest online wallets in existence at this point of any cryptocurrency, besides maybe Bitcoin, but definitely in the altcoin space. So this was created 2014, and it's been online ever since. So there's thousands of users that use Marscoin online, the wallet online, and send and receive. One of the big upgrades this year was the ability to use it on a mobile phone. So that's been better. Before it was possible, but it didn't have the barcode scanning capabilities. So it's functional on mobile wallets now, which is really helpful. The desktop wallet is still version 1.5. We're planning an upgrade for 1.6, either later this year or early next year. It's interesting that our desktop wallet, obviously this is a Qt based wallet similar to Bitcoins and Litecoins. We used to have a chat room even in there. So there's a lot of experimentation with Marscoin always in the history of our coin, and it never really ceases. There was a chat room in there and a news update. We took that out for version 1.5. Might at some point bring it back, but this is also in social media. We're in a different universe than they are now, right? So social media has evolved, and there's a lot of platforms where people hang out and communicate. So it's not really necessary anymore to have this in your wallet. But in 2014, that was still a tremendous, interesting feature. It was actually ICQ based. So, yeah. And the mobile wallet I just mentioned is now mobile responsive. So people can transact their Marscoin over the phone, and this is in particular interesting because one of the sweet integrations, of course, was this. I'm partially responsible for it, of course, as well, as I'm the CTO of ByteFederal. But in 2020, we listed Marscoin on our ATM machines, and the company has grown. So you can see at the bottom the map of locations in which Marscoin are available for cash to be purchased. So that's a lot. And in order to close the loop and build out the infrastructure for a financial system like this, ATM is one side. The other thing is, of course, a mobile wallet, block explorers, and so on. And with the mobile wallets, the interactions are just easier for people to transact and send money around. This year alone, we got listed on 3 new exchanges: FinexBox, Dextrade, and XT. XT is a rather large exchange, and probably the most liquid and most used of our 3 exchanges. At this point, really thank all of the people involved in it, the donations that made it possible, and the exchange administrators and exchange the developers that got us listed and allow Marscoin to be traded daily on these exchanges. So we have applications with other exchanges, with larger exchanges in play, but there's always a difficulty because some of these exchanges are very difficult, very expensive to get listed on. Some of them need security assurances or security funds that get returned after a while. So that we're working with a really rather large exchange right now. But part of it also is a capital raise requirements to basically just as a safety deposit fund that gets returned after a while, but still necessary. So various exchanges have various ways of getting listed, and it just allows people to find the coin and be able to transact with it. And so at this point, I'm just going to go into a few details with regard to the future of Marscoin, what we've been working on, and what's up and coming. So the online wallet is constantly on the work. There's a couple of improvements with regard to security in particular that we're planning. The Explorer updates, we were actually trying to get a new Explorer software established as well. So the current one that we're using is a fork of Litecoin Explorer, but there's other Explorer software that we're looking at. The desktop wallet, as I mentioned, would be nice to upgrade. It's probably going to happen early next year. With regard to a native mobile wallet for Android and iPhone, so not the online wallet on the phone, but an actual dedicated wallet. There's two aspects. One, we're working with a company and we might be adding Marscoin to their existing wallet. So then you'll find that on their wallets as a native wallet to store coins and use them. The other aspect is our own wallet launch. So it might be a fork off of Blue Wallet. And if you've been following our GitHub repository, you can see that work has already begun. With regard to the ATMs, there's going to be an international push. So Marscoin is going to be visible or available on ATMs, not just in the United States, but probably first South America and then Europe. Obviously, always more exchanges. If you would like to help, you can either file with us, support us on these exchanges, ask questions, ask exchanges for us to get listed, or donate into the development fund. Pools are always a tricky thing. So with regard to pool software, it's an undertaking. So anybody who's interested in running pools, please let us know. If you open up a pool or if you add Marscoin to your pool, we will make sure that the community knows about it. We have a very rich and vibrant mining community, and they're always looking for balancing their mining power out, because sometimes with a smaller coin, you run into monopolies of miners, and as long as they as long as they're reputable, it's not a problem, but you do want to make sure that the mining power is decentralized as much as possible. Otherwise, you end up in a similar space as with a proof of stake, where let's say someone comes and buys up a certain part of the stake of coins and is able to manipulate the transactions. And those are the known weaknesses for cryptocurrencies. And the higher our hash rate is and the more distributed our hash rate is, the better it is for the network itself. Then there's also a couple of partnership projects, and today we're going to hear some of the presentations with regard to that. So it's really interesting that Marscoin itself has become a focal point for academic and space interests with regard to cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and what it would mean on a future settlement on Mars. So while many of these thoughts are experimental and outright visionary at this point, because of this software, there's a lot that you can already do at this point and then experiment with it. One of the big projects is, of course, slated towards December this year. James is going to head to the Mars Desert Research Station, and we're very much forward-looking in experimenting with two systems. One is going to be a resource tracking application, and we'll test case that in the research station. So what I initially mentioned, one of the benefits of a blockchain is timestamping and making sure that resources are being tracked and the community knows about how many and where they are. That's something we'd like to test case on the Mars Society's actual Mars Desert Research Station. And another aspect that's very, very close to heart and important is an identity system that is cryptographically secure, but still and transparent, but still respects the privacy of individuals, and then allows, in addition, a voting experiment. So some of you might remember a discussion with Elon Musk at some point where he mentioned that it would be really interesting to see a 60% kind of vote for any particular law, and if I remember correctly, 40% basically takes that law out of play. So what's really interesting in general with voting systems is we would like to experiment with them as early as possible, because the form of how Mars and Martian settlers will organize themselves is going to be very important very quickly. And the more options and opportunities they have to play and experiment with that as early as possible, the better. And that's one aspect. The other one is that with regard to the Marscoin's network development on the chain itself, we have intentionally taken a very conservative approach. So it's almost like Bitcoin development and Litecoin development and Ethereum development is the tip, if you will, of the chain of innovation, but we're not jumping at them. Obviously, there's ways to replicate and copy and align yourselves with the latest and greatest innovation, but there's also a problem in that certain decisions are made about the future of the chain that you don't necessarily want to make now, that the participants, and particularly the participants of the network, should make. As you know, with Marscoin, the idea is that someone in the early group of Martian settlers takes the chain to Mars on a USB stick, takes a little miner, a node, to the software for a node to Mars, very similar to what we're trying to do on the MDRS experiment. And they run the network there, and they establish the network, recreating a network effect as being the first. And what would be ideal, of course, is the people involved in this process are the ones making decisions about the network, not necessarily us jumping to a conclusion right now, chasing down a certain idea, but making sure that whatever the needs of the settlers are, and the people who are identified and identifying themselves as being settlers who are actually going to go to Mars, that their voice is heard, and their decisions are the ones that are making changes to or impacting the innovations on the Marscoin network. So this is just to kind of talk a little bit about what I mentioned. The decentralized identity systems are some that, if some of you are familiar with the cryptocurrency space, Microsoft is part of this ION initiative. It's very, very interesting what's going on in that sense. And we would like to experiment inside the Marscoin group with these technologies, in particular because you could see a way for someone landing on Mars to get registered on an IPFS local system where data gets stored, but in a way his identity is also generated. And at that point, he could participate in any activities on Mars as a individual, that autonomous individual, if you will, that can participate in voting and other aspects of governance, self-governance. The other thing that's interesting with current projects like the PinePhone and cellular mesh networks, the ability within a place like the MDRS to test a blockchain network and networking technology and see if we can transfer value, transfer commands, transfer resource tracking between individual hubs or nodes of a mesh network. Yeah, so with this, I would like to conclude my talk. And we're always looking for developers. Please check our Discord, Gitter, Reddit, places. Big things coming up. Developers who are interested in particular in identity voting systems, who are interested in mobile development, please reach out to us. There's a lot on the list for the next couple of months until December, when our MDRS experiments are about to launch.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Lennart. We have a couple questions coming in from our audience. The first question is, what's the best way to buy Marscoin right now?
Best way to buy Marscoin is probably xt.com. It's one of the top 50, let's say, exchanges. They're ranked pretty high, and I think it's a good spot to purchase Marscoin.
And I wanted to just throw up again our slide that talks about the development fund. You mentioned that we are raising funds for funding development and also to get listed on exchanges. If you go to our website and click on development fund in the footer, you'll find the ways to contribute to the Marscoin Foundation and the project. Lennart, how do people report problems they have? We've had some sporadic instances of people having issues with their wallet or not being able to access the Explorer. You mentioned some of the typical blockchain issues that cryptocurrencies have that we deal with. How can people report problems?
So there's a couple of ways. One, if you have a technical background, maybe GitHub is a good way to report an issue directly. Open up an issue report. Another way is info@marscoin.org is a good email if you want to send us an email, and you can wait a little bit for a response. Another one, if you think this might be a problem that the community can help you with, is definitely Discord. If you reach out on Discord, the general chat room there, and let us know what's going on, then there's a lot of eyeballs that can help you immediately check out what the problem might be and channel the information to the developers.
Looking out to the future, where do you see the cryptocurrency space overall, not just Marscoin, but everything happening in cryptocurrency? Where do you see that in like 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really good question. So Bitcoin becoming legal tender, that kind of sent shockwaves, I think, through the financial system this year. And if you really study El Salvador and what they did and why they did it, it just makes sense. They didn't have much to lose. Now the society has a way to park money in a savings account that's untouchable, if you will, by anybody else. So there's a lot of interesting reasons with it. I think innovation is going to continue like crazy as it has for the last 10 years. I think Bitcoin is still going to be the top dog, will become the planetary reserve currency, and outperform the US dollar in that sense. And I think as soon as someone lands on Mars, whoever is going to be that person, they're going to bring this technology with them. And so I think it's really exciting, very fascinating. For someone who hasn't thought much about it, our white paper has a lot of outlook into the future when it comes to space and cryptocurrency. So some of those questions might be answered there.
And then finally, where can someone buy one of our Marscoin Decentralized Humanity t-shirts?
I believe it's on Teespring. I have to see. I'm not sure if there's a link up on the website, but we should probably find that link and post it maybe here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our members as well in the community, Nick Evans, has created a Marscoin store, and he has some merchandise as well. So check that out. Marscoinstore.com, I believe, is the URL.
Yeah, I think the decentralized humanity is just a no-brainer. If you are in the decentralized cryptocurrency space, it makes sense, and this makes even more sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lennart. Congratulations on the success of the project. I know you've been working hard on it since 2014, even before that, and it's just going really great. I'm very proud to be part of this.
Thanks for having me.